My name, the name I was given before Chaos took it and the name I am reclaiming now, whether the Imperium accepts that reclamation or not, is Sergeant Draeven Kael, formerly of the Iron Warriors, 4th Grand Company. Champion of Chaos Undivided for 11 years. I have killed more Imperial soldiers than I can number. I have razed 3 worlds. I have stood at the altar of the dark gods and received their gifts and used those gifts to do things that I will not describe in detail because the details are not the point. The point is this: I am here. I am standing in front of an Inquisitorial tribunal, voluntarily, unrestrained, weapons surrendered, and I am asking the Imperium of Man to let me come back. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking this is a trap. You are thinking the dark gods send me here as a weapon, a sleeper, a seed of something worse to come. I understand why you think that. I would think the same. But here is what I need you to hear before you make your decision. Chaos did not send me. Chaos does not know I am here. And the reason Chaos does not know I am here, the reason I was able to leave at all, is the thing that this testimony is about. Because something happened to me 11 years into my service that the dark gods cannot explain and have not been able to reverse. And that something has a name, and its name is the reason I am standing here instead of kneeling at an altar on the other side of the galaxy. I will tell you its name, but first you have to understand what I was. And what I was is not something the Imperium made. It is something the Imperium lost, and I wanted to know that. I want to be honest about what Chaos gave me, because the Imperium's propaganda about the dark gods is, I say this as someone who has served both, incomplete. Chaos gave me power, real, measurable, undeniable power. The kind of strength that lets you stand in the breach when space marines are falling and not fall. It gave me clarity, the specific clarity of a man who has decided that the rules he was living under were a cage and has stepped outside them. It gave me brothers. Not the hollow brotherhood of imperial regiments where the commissar has a bolt pistol pointed at the back of your conviction. Real brothers, men who chose their allegiance with full knowledge of the cost and chose it anyway. I am not going to pretend those things were nothing. They were not nothing. What Chaos cannot give you, what I discovered 11 years in the ruins of a world I had just helped destroy, standing in rubble that had been a schola progenium 6 hours earlier, is continuity of self. That is the technical term I have given to the thing I lost. What I mean in plain language is this: the man who joined the Iron Warriors was a man with a history, a memory, a continuous thread of selfhood that connected who he was at 7 years old in a Forge World dormitory to who he was at 23 enlisting to who he was at 31 when the Chaos corruption took hold and began rewriting him. Chaos does not preserve that thread. Chaos uses it for fuel. And one morning I woke up in a ruin on a world I could not name and I could not remember the face of my mother. And I understood, in that moment, that I had been burning myself to stay warm. And there was almost nothing left. I found a book in the rubble. I know how that sounds. I know it sounds like the beginning of a conversion narrative. The kind of story that ends with a man weeping in front of an aquila and pledging renewed service. It is not that story. The book was a child's primer. Schola Progenium standard issue, the kind every imperial child learns to read from. Aquila on the cover, simple text. Illustrations of the Emperor's saints in the style designed to make children feel safe rather than afraid. It was not the content that stopped me. It was the handwriting in the margins. A child had written their name on the inside cover, the way children do, the way I had done, the way every child does who has ever been given a book and told it is theirs. The name was Pell, just Pell. 7 letters, large and uneven, the handwriting of someone who had recently learned to form letters and was proud of the forming. I sat in that rubble for, I do not know how long, long enough for the fires to die down. Long enough for my brothers to move on without coming back for me, which tells you something about Chaos Brotherhood that I left out of the last part. I sat there holding a dead child's book and I felt something that 11 years of Chaos gifts had not been able to burn out of me entirely. I felt the specific weight of what I had participated in. Not guilt in the imperial devotional sense, not the self-flagellating performance of remorse. Just weight, just the clean, honest, unbearable weight of what a life costs when it ends before it fills out. Pell had not finished learning to write, and I had helped make sure they never would. Something in me decided, in that ruin, that I was not willing to be the thing that had done that anymore. Chaos cannot take that decision back. I have checked, I have waited. It has not taken it back. Leaving chaos is not a spiritual event. I want to be clear about that because the Imperium tends to frame these things in theological terms, the Emperor's grace reaching through the darkness to retrieve the lost. Perhaps that is true. I cannot rule it out. What I can tell you is that in practical terms, leaving chaos is an operational problem requiring careful planning and the acceptance of a very high probability of death. I spent 4 months planning it. I maintained full operational capability, fought when required, attended the rituals, showed nothing. A chaos warband operates on the same principle as any military unit. Loyalty is assumed until deviation is detected, and deviation is punished with a totality that imperial discipline cannot match. I could not afford to deviate visibly before I was gone. I left during a transit between systems, the specific window between warp entry and exit when the warband psychers are occupied with navigation and their attention is distributed. I took nothing, no weapons, no armor, nothing that could be tracked or traced. I exited through an emergency void port in a transit suit and I spent 19 hours in open space before a salvage vessel picked me up. The salvage crew were, correctly, terrified of me. I told them what I was. I told them where I needed to go. The captain, a woman whose name I did not ask because I did not want to put her in danger by knowing it, made the transit to the nearest Inquisitorial post without reporting the pickup on any open channel. I do not know why she did that. I think she looked at me and saw something she was not expecting. I think she saw someone who was afraid. Not of the Inquisition, of being turned away. I am not asking for forgiveness. I want to be precise about that because I think the tribunal may be expecting a penitence narrative and I am not going to give them one, not because I am not sorry, but because sorry is insufficient to the scale of what I have done and I refuse to insult the dead by offering it as though it were a transaction. What I am asking for is use. I am asking the Imperium to look at what I am, a man with 11 years of operational experience inside a chaos warband, intimate knowledge of Iron Warriors doctrine and strategy, full awareness of current warband disposition in 3 sectors, and a functional conscience that has apparently survived 11 years of active suppression, and ask whether that is more valuable pointed at the enemy or pointed at the ground. I am not asking to be trusted. Trust would be insane. I am asking to be useful in controlled conditions with appropriate oversight and a bolt pistol pointed at the back of my head at all times, which I consider entirely reasonable and, in fact, prefer, because it means someone is paying attention. The Inquisitor at this tribunal has not spoken since I began. She has been watching me with the specific quality of attention that I recognized from my own interrogation work, the attention of someone building a picture rather than confirming a conclusion. I find that encouraging. I find it encouraging because it means she has not already decided. And if she has not already decided, then the thing that chaos could not burn out of me, the weight I felt in that ruin, holding Pell's book, still has somewhere to go. My name is Draeven Kael. I was lost. I found my way back. What you do with me now is your choice, but I am asking you to choose carefully. Because I promise you, whatever I am not what you were expecting. And in the 41st millennium, unexpected is the only thing left that can still change anything. Note: Draeven Kael is still in that tribunal room. The Inquisitor is still deciding. If you have a verdict, the comment section is open, and this community has been deciding the fate of confessors since the beginning. Drop your vote, then subscribe, because next video, someone else sits in that chair. Someone with something the Imperium was never supposed to hear. And unlike Kael, they are not asking permission.